Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today's video is going to be discussing the one change that we got for Warlock in, I guess, week 2 of 10.2's PTR builds. Now, to clarify, there really weren't a whole lot of changes for many classes today. Rogue got some changes, some buffs and nerfs, but there is raid testing this week. It begins Thursday. It's Thursday and Friday. I think 4 p.m. Eastern, my time, roughly. So if you want to see that, shameless plug, I'll be streaming it on Twitch. Probably some footage here as well on YouTube if you want after that. But I would assume a lot of the tuning is going to be happening once we get some data on that. But with Demonology being so far behind, I thought we'd get some. Either way, got a change today, but it wasn't really a buff. We'll talk about that today and the implications of all that. Couple other things in this video as well, some rare loot, and I guess just go from there. Compare some AOE profiles. Shameless plugs, like always, week wars, add-ons, links to Twitch and Discord down below are free for you guys. At the same time, like always, again, I want to give a shout out to my patrons before we get into the video. For all support on Patreon, guys, a million times, like always, I really appreciate it. If you look at supporting on Patreon or following on Instagram or TikTok or anything, links to all that up here. We're posting every other day on TikTok, and the 10.2 Warlock PTR spreadsheet will indeed be going live on Patreon probably within a week and a half or so. The PTR is relatively far along, so that should be hopefully coming out pretty soon. If you like access to that, the tier 3 Felguard or higher rank gets access to it early. And yeah, all that being said, let's get onto it and I guess just, well, discuss the change. All right, so getting into the changes, I guess off the bat here, shameless plug, like I said earlier, raid testing is happening this Thursday and Friday. It's being tested for the next, honestly, month or so leading up to like mid-October. The entire raid's open on normal on the 22nd, I believe. Yeah. So not this coming weekend, but weekend after. I'll be testing it on stream every day, Thursday and Friday. If you want to see it there, I'll have the videos here as well on YouTube. If you want to check on back on that or anything, feel free to sub to the channel. It would help out a lot, obviously. Or come by Twitch. We can stream it live. Either way, that's happening for the next month or so. So, like I said, not a lot of class tuning today for most specs or anything. I've seen like some minor like druid changes and all that. There was a decent bit to rogue, but for the most part, really small stuff here and there. Warlock did get one change. So it is to Imp Gang Boss. Now, if you are a fan of Imp Gang Boss and the Imp refunds and all that, like me, hey, that's awesome, but unfortunately it's getting nerfed. Now, nerf is a word I can use because it might be buffed overall in damage, but so basically what they're doing, they are getting rid of the clause that whenever you implode an Imp Gang Boss, you get an imp back, which might be an Imp Gang Boss, it might not be, but they're getting rid of that implosion clause. Instead, they're tacking on a 50% increased damage to the imps you implode. Now, to show it in game and everything, here's the in-game tooltip on retail. When imploded, an Imp Gang Boss will summon a wild imp. And look at the damage clause here. An Imp Gang Boss deals 50% increased damage. If you pull it up on PTR, the implosion clause is gone. Well, I guess the extra imp spawning clause is gone, but they've added implosions from Imp Gang Boss deal 50% increased damage. So your Imp Gang Bosses are still relevant in a sense when it comes to cleave and all that. They will deal more damage, 50% more, which is actually a pretty good bit. But they don't spawn extra imps. So there's a handful of things that happen here. Number one, this is a nerf to our AOE core generation. Because let's say, for example, if you imploded, if you went in and you had, I don't know, let's say you had, well, let's shift to a different, view here. Let's say you have, 7 to 8 imps out or whatever, a few Imp Gang Bosses and all that. Like, I have 2 out now. If I cast a hand, I have 2. If I imploded here, I get 2 imps back, right? Which means I could implode theoretically maybe a little earlier in the next implosion, but those 2 extra imps would count towards, a possible core from being imploded in the next implosion, right? So it made that downtime between implosion cycling and implosion cast and waves and all that lesser because you got more imps back. Now, there were times where you high rolled, like when you had your Tyrant out and you get maybe 20 imps out total and 15 were Imp Gang Bosses. And there were times where you low rolled and you had 20 imps out and 2 of them were Imp Gang Bosses. So there's a lot of RNG when it comes to that, but it was fun. I think thematically it was very, very cool, an awesome ability. And there were some times where there could have been some single target implosions, which wasn't really discussed a whole lot, but I mean, listen, if I'm in single target and I have 15 imps out or 15 Imp Gang Bosses, I'm going to implode and save those imps from expiring, right? Because if you don't implode, they expire. Now, on the positive side of things, this is going to shift our AoE profile to being, like with implosion and things, more bursty, because I guess it sort of depends on Imp Gang spawns and things, but if you have a decent bit of Imp Gang Bosses in an implosion, that implosion is going to hit for a good bit more damage, because the Imp Gang Bosses hit for 50% more than normal imps do. On top of that, keep in mind, we have this ability here, Volatile Fiends, which increases all implosion damage by 10%, which, I would assume works with the Imp Gang Boss implosion increase here as well. We'll look at this ability in a minute here in combat. This ability does a lot of damage too. The bombers from this were doing like 5% of my damage in AOE when I was playing Demonic Strength. This ability is actually wild. It's very, very cool. It's a great ability. I think it's really sick. It's flying under the radar. It's also a baseline 20% increase to your bombers, like if you play the ability here, and the one that spawns works at AOE, plus implosion damage. If you're playing this ability, or if you're in plus, you're playing Volatile Fiends. So there's a loss to the core generation in AOE. There's that weird, like, grayish area where, like, single target implosions with a lot of Imp Gang Boss high rolls could be sort of a thing. It's just sort of awkward, because, like, fundamentally, it felt really good when you had multiple imps out, multiple Imp Gang Bosses, you imploded, you got 6 or 7 back, you imploded again, got 2 or 3 back, and it just sort of went from there. It really changed how Demonology felt a crazy amount when it comes to Mythic Plus, at any spot where you're imploding, in cleave fights, in the raid. Losing that feels awkward. Now, we'll play a build here. This is, I mean, it feels like how Demonology did before Imp Gang Boss, which takes a lot of getting used to, but keep in mind, Demonic Knowledge has been nerfed from 15 to 10%, and Bloodbound Imps is gone. So we have a lot less core generation between implosions. Sometimes you high roll, sometimes you don't, but it feels like Shadowlands Demo in a sense, like implosion-wise, with less core generation, which overall, not a very good thing. But either way, let's get into it here. So let's say we're heading into a pack. I don't have any imps chasing me around. You know, Tyrant's limited to 10 extension-wise now anyway, so there's that. But we're going to go into a pack, let's say. Reset this. We're going to go in, build some shards here. Let's go Grimoire, build a bit here. Go Dogs, cast a Bolt. So I'm going to go 5 Imp Tyrant here, whatever. Trinket, Tyrant, whatever. I'll Demonic Strength. I have the wrong pet out, that's okay. Damage doesn't really matter. Get in there. There we go. Strength now. That's fine. Start casting some hands and stuff. What we're looking at here really is going to be like core generation. This weak core is bugged as well. The imps are still out. I'm going to implode right about now. Implode. I got no cores back. I can't even power siphon. I can't even power siphon. Should I have held for dogs? Yes, but we're not doing damage like cycles here. I can't even power siphon. There's 2 cores from the dogs. Start building again into a lesser implosion. Implode. I got 2 cores back, so we high rolled there. I got a core from my Handy Golden as well. I still can't siphon though, because no imps came back. So breaking that habit of like being able to implode and some imps come back from like, you know, the Imp Gang Boss refunds and siphoning is gonna be hard to do. Implode here. 11 imps, got 1 core. No cores available. No cores from dogs right now. Can't siphon. It's gonna change the way AF plays a decent bit in plus with implosion cycling. Now, when you get used to it, it really isn't that bad necessarily. At times you high roll cores. At times you low roll cores. It's sort of a slot machine. But in the end, like, you can really feel the lack of core generation from the Demonic Knowledge nerfs, from the Imp Gang Boss nerfs, changes, however you want to word it, and also from the loss of Bloodbound Imps, especially with Bloodbound Imps giving more core, just no procs, especially with Bloodbound Imps giving more core generation, or I guess core generation in a sense, depending on how it rolled in AoE, right? Counting more towards it. Cast Tyrant here. It's capped out on power. Pets are on passive, doesn't matter. 10 to mana. My tier bonus proc, that's cool. We'll cast some more imps here. I'm gonna implode like now. Why not? We have like 20-ish out. Whatever. Implode. I got 1 core back. So it's rough. It's rough. It's a little awkward. It's a mix of like knowledge being nerfed, no Bloodbound imps, but also like a mix of not getting the Imp Gang Bosses back, not being able to siphon. At the same time, I found out that Tyrant is unfortunately not smart when it comes to casting Power Siphon. If you Tyrant with 10 imps out, and then, you know, cast a couple of Handy Lands, get like 15-ish imps out, if you siphon, it will prioritize the ones that were out already. The ones that are extended. Eat those. It won't eat the new ones that aren't extended. So hopefully that gets looked at and changed in some manner, in some way as well. Not really sure. On the positive note, this bomber is doing 4% more damage, and this is solely from Volatile Fiends. I'm not even playing bombers here. This talent's wild. It's actually pretty cool. So, I mean, glass half full. This talent's cool, but I guess glass half full as well. If you have like 9 imps in the previous pack heading into the new one, and plus, for example, and like a lot of their Imp Gang bosses, pound for pound, your implosions should hit harder, with the claws being 50% more from Imp Gang bosses. On the negative side, the downside, glass half empty, you're not going to be imploding as often. So it could be a wash in damage, could be a buff, could be a nerf, probably a wash, but fluidity overall rotationally, it just feels like it's lacking. I think we've hit the core generation just too much, and it just feels clunky and slow, and you know, you'll get used to it. In the end, if they buff the spec a bunch and it's good, you'll play it. But like, I don't really. It doesn't really feel very good when you're in plus. You don't really have much core generation, right? It just doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel fast. It doesn't feel fluent when I'm casting Shadow Bolts to build resources between packs to try and build the implosions. It just feels sort of awkward and sort of clunky. And I don't really know where else to go with it. My Tyrant's glowing because it's capped out on damage, which is wild. It doesn't feel very good, right? Like, imploding 15, 16 imps, all these imps right now, and I get 1 core back. It's like, and I can't even siphon because I have no imps out. It's just like, it just doesn't really feel good fundamentally. So I get that once again, it might be due to the RNG of Imp Gang Boss. It could be due to like a core generation trying to be hit again, which they've hit it too much, I think, at this point, unfortunately. Hopefully it gets maybe reverted a little bit. It could be due to like maybe some single target imploding and like awkwardness there, which I mean, sort of was a thing. It could be for a handful of reasons. But overall, it feels like similar to like the Tyrant whitelist blacklisting thing and the Ram's Tyranny cap and Pit Lord being destroyed and Portal not having extensions anymore, all that stuff. It just feels like a bit more fun has been taken out of Demo's rotation and plus and things. But in the end, if the damage is there, if they buff it enough, you'll play it, but it won't feel anywhere near as fluent. So hopefully maybe some feedback is out there and they'll change the Imp Gang Boss. They'll go back on that change. I don't really know why it was needed in the first place, but I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Also, want to hit on the fact that there was not any tuning today or changes to Demonology is not indicative of them not looking at feedback. The PTR came out on Thursday, I think, of last week. So that's like 1 business day, and it was Friday, it's the weekend, and then there was Monday. So even if they want to change things, whatever, I think chances are pretty high. There just wasn't enough time to do that. Hey, a bomber proc there, that's pretty cool. They're probably, the bombers are procking from Fiends, that's cool. I think chances are high there wasn't enough time to try and make those changes in the first place if they want to do things. So maybe next week we'll see more. I don't know, testing this Thursday. Let's really fast so we have some time here. Look at Biosports Bombers in combat as a talent. All right, so just to show here, we are indeed playing Bombers over Demonic Strength. We are playing Volatile Fiends. And Volatile Fiends, like the Bombers miss ability on their own. When we are playing Strength, was like 4% of my damage when it comes to AOE. It procs a good bit. It's a full Bomber. It's actually pretty wild. Now, keep in mind, Bomber Shard Claws also removed in patch 10.1.5, I think. The damage is behind than retail compared to Strength for a handful of reasons, but a 20% buff to Bombers very well might make up that gap. So we're going to this here. I'll try a normal CD and pull up a meter over here for you guys as well. We're going to go in. I guess just start casting. Sure, why not? Cast this. Try and Tyrant. Pull this up whenever it shows up. Hopefully within a minute. It'll pop up eventually, hopefully. Cast some dogs here. Cast some imps. I'm going to Trinket in a second here. We can throw a Bombers here actually now because we don't have any shard costs on it, right? Throw this down. Throw some imps. Trinket Tyrant. Here's the meter. We'll cast a Grimoire. Or a Guillotine, I'm sorry. Look at Bombers, 17%, right? I'm gonna implode in 3 seconds here, but like watch how much value they have. Cast this, cast all, here comes the implosion. I don't know how many imps I had out there for Imp Gang Boss. Unfortunately, 1 shard back and only 1 stack from the power siphon because we don't have Imp Gang Boss anymore, but that is what it is. I'm gonna try and maintain implosion cycling here. We'll talk to you guys, might scuff it a little bit. We can cast Bombers again here. Bombers back down, no shard cost. No shard cost on Bombers feels insane, by the way. It feels really, really good being able to cast Bombers like that. Just throw it down with Guillotine or whenever it lines up. Just in general. Having 2 abilities to have no shard cost to do AoE feel really good. Setting up another thing here. Throw a Guillotine down. We have Bombers in 10. Setting up another Implosion. Building a bit here. Cast this. Cast Dogs. Implode. There's that. No refunds there. It's okay. You know, it's a world we live in. We'll cast Bombers here. Thankfully, no shard cost on them. Still can't siphon, though. Still no imps out. It's very unfortunate. I'll siphon here, I guess. Maybe I can baby Implosion, I guess. I don't know. We have 4 cores now. It's okay. There's the shard economy I'm looking for. Imploding a bit here. I can do 1 more Implosion before I cast Tyrant here. I'm going to hold the dogs, whatever. I'm going to implode here. No refund. That's okay. Hopefully, we get something from this. I'm going to cast Dogs. Start setting up my Tyrant a little bit. Hopefully, we're not too late on it. Do this. Hand. Our tier bonus proc. Cool. Shadow Bolt. Hand. We're going to go Tyrant. Going to go Bombers. Going to go Guillotine. Build some imps here. I can Siphon, but I don't want to because it'll eat the old imps, and I don't want to do that. We're going to cast Dogs here for FTS, or Refresh, we're going to Implode. But look at Bombers. 11.6%. Holding strong, man. Bombers looks to be pretty competitive. Half a minute cooldown. It is a ground place, like, reticle kind of effect, but honestly, it looks to be pretty competitive, man. We'll see where it goes compared to Strength, and there's no real tier bonus, like interaction with Strength this tier either to prop it up, but Bombers looks pretty good. Whether you're playing Strength or Bombers as a talent, though, I would probably attribute like 4-ish% of this damage just to the talent Volatile Fiends. So Bombers is likely somewhere around like 7 to 9% of my damage being the actual ability you hit, and 3 to 5% is probably just basically Volatile Fiends. But like I said, Fiends looks really strong in plus. It buffs Bombers. Even if you're playing Strength, it gives you some Bombers, implosion damage buff, and the Imp Gang Boss change, yeah, the Shard economy or Demonic Core economy feels pretty bad. Not gonna lie. Takes some getting used to. If it stays that way, you'll probably get used to it. But either way, I guess glass half full, it is more snap implosion damage if you're looking for, if you have a lot of Imp Gang Bosses out. And if you don't, well, I don't know what to tell you. It probably didn't matter in the first place. But overall, fluidity-wise, doesn't feel as good. But we'll see what happens. Give feedback on the forums and anything else, and if you don't like it or whatever, and we'll go from there. But once again, Fiends, Bombers, probably flying under the radar because of all like the awkward changes. So thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I sort of understand the reason as to why they're making these changes for Demonology. We talked about it a little bit already in the feedback video for Demo, the changes and all that stuff. The Imp Gang Boss change, like, it might even be a net gain. It removes some RNG in a sense, I guess, for like shard generation with like demonic cores if you're imploding and stuff, which I mean, that might be what they're looking to do because they nerfed demonic knowledge, the demonic core generator from Handy Gul'dan, and they removed Bloodbound Imps. So they might be trying to hit our demonic core generation AoE and also remove a bit of like RNG with Imp Gang Boss. Maybe it's also due to like imploding in single target. I don't know, but Imp Gang Boss has been nerfed. Nerfed, I guess change is a way to put it. But keep in mind, once again, Volatile Fiends increases implosion damage by 10% passively for every imp. The Imp Gang Boss, once again, has that clause now for 50% more damage that is dealt whenever you implode Imp Gang Bosses. So, sort of like a trade-off, I guess. I don't know where it's going to land damage-wise. It might even be a bit of a buff. But like I said, overall, just the overall rotational fluidity of the spec, it's just getting worse and worse. It was a cool ability too. Everybody loved it. Imploding a bunch of imps and seeing more spawn felt great, but it is what it is. So we will see where it goes. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, Week Wars add-ons, links to Twitch and Discord down below if you want them, all for free for you guys. And again, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons who are in the video for supporting my Patreon, guys. As always, thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, link up here, as well as down below in the description. And the 10.2 PTR Warlock spreadsheet will be live in a week and a half or so, give or take. If you want early access to that, the Tier 3 Fail Guard rank on Patreon or higher gets that. So yeah. Now, like I said, even in the feedback video, if they tune Demonology to be strong damage-wise, the Ray of Tyranny limitations, the Tyrant, Whitelist, Blacklist thing, the Portal stuff being dead, Pit Lord being gutted, the Imp Gang Boss changes, it might not feel anywhere near... It might not feel as good rotationally, not as fluent and all that, but in the end, if the damage is there, you're still going to play it. The damage is not there at all right now, but if your sole concern is damage, I wouldn't worry at all right now. Because tuning happens over PTR. Our tier bonus is not even working, so there's that. If your concern is like rotational fluidity, how it plays, yeah, I'd be concerned a little bit. But if you're concerned about damage, I wouldn't be, because in the end, they can buff and nerf things in the middle of any patch on retail. No big deal. But larger rotational changes, talent changes, don't typically happen until PTRs or larger ones, expansions. So it's much more important to have a good, a good feel for a spec. It feels good rotationally and all that, and numbers come at some point. Numbers can be insane, but the spec feels bad to play. Feels bad to play. Doesn't really work the other way, you know. So we'll see where it goes. It is what it is. With that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. And I'll catch you all again soon on a stream. Thursday, Friday for raid testing. Peace.